Roctavia Rose with Rock News UK, and I am here with Becky Baldwin from the band Fury, and they're located over in the UK. I'm here in the US, in Chicago. I just got a new kitten, so if you hear him thumping around, I apologize for the sound discrepancies. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to you, Becky. Go ahead and introduce yourself and your band.
I'm Becky Baldwin and I play bass for a metal band called Fury. And I also play in a band called Hands Off Gretel. We're not very active right now, but so most of my work is with the heavy metal band Fury. We're based in Birmingham, but we're doing our first shows outside of the country. We're doing our first tour in Europe in next month. Next month it starts.
That's awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to get to know you guys through Zoom as best as possible. So go ahead and give me an idea of some of the things that influenced you musically coming up, that kind of led you on your path.
So I think for the band, Metallica is definitely a big influence, as well as Iron Maiden. Those are the kind of bands that I guess you could say we sound most similar to. There's also some maybe some Meatloaf influences there, something very like theatrical and a little bit over the top. But yeah, for myself, again, Metallica was like a big band that I was super into growing up, and Black Sabbath, another big one for me. As a bass player, I find like my two favorite bassists are Geezer Butler of Black Sabbath and Cliff Burton of Metallica. So they definitely influenced my style. And also our vocalist Julian, he writes most of our songs, and he's a big Metallica fan as well. So like that's kind of the kind of thing we're trying to get out of the band, really.
That's awesome. So how long have you actually been playing the bass, and what made you decide to go with the bass?
I've been playing for, I think, 17 or 18 years now. So yeah, quite a long time. But I guess there's been times when it hasn't been my main priority, even though I've always wanted to do it. As soon as I picked it up, it was like, yes, this is the thing I want to do forever. I guess I started wanting to learn to play it because some of my friends were starting to learn to play guitar, and I just got into like rock music and punk and all this, like I don't know, like I just got the internet like at home and just got like music channels on TV, and so suddenly like Metallica was on telly, and all these different kinds of music, all these music videos that I was never exposed to before. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but like I really like it. And some of my friends and my sister started playing guitar, and I was like, I kind of want to do what you're doing, but I don't want to copy you exactly. I want to do something similar. And I was like, well, what else could I do? Like maybe I could do bass. And the more I got interested in playing bass, the more I saw other bass players in the bands that I liked, and was like, yeah, that is the cool person. Like bass is cool. It's maybe more of a background instrument, and a lot of people don't pick out the bass player as the person they focus on. But I started really doing that, and it just kind of inspired me to do more and more of it.
Do you have like a gig or a show like that you went to that just like where you caught the live music bug? Can you like remember a specific time?
I think it was probably the first gig I went to kind of on my own, like my parents didn't bring me or anything. I went to see Motorhead, and I think Girls' School were supporting them, and so that was the first time I'd seen like 4 women playing instruments live on stage. I'd seen Nightwish a few years before that, but it was just like a female singer, and so it felt different watching Girls' School play. And then I think a few years after, I saw Motorhead again, and they were supported by Joan Jett that time.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I think to start seeing women playing guitar, playing other instruments and stuff, it really made me think like, yeah, I could do this. Like I don't know, like I guess most musicians do it, like when you're watching a band and it's a band you're really loving, you're imagining yourself in their position and being like, yeah, I could do that. Like if they said like, we need someone to come and play this song, we're like, would you say yes, I'll do it? Even if you don't know how to play, would you just want to be there and wish you knew how to do it? And so that's every time I go see someone else play, it kind of reminds me that that's where I want to be. So it's good. We're doing a lot of gigs at the moment, but you always just want bigger. Like I want to be touring these like 2,000 capacity venues, like stuff like that would be really cool. And just seeing women doing it, like Joan Jett, like she's had such a long and successful career. It's it's pretty cool to see.
So speaking of like all the venues that you were talking about, like what is your favorite venue? Which one would you want to play like most of all?
Ooh, that's interesting. I think okay. I would say like probably some of the arenas, like the O2 Arena in London. Because I haven't been to that many like bigger gigs. I tend to like go to smaller gigs, and then I see big bands at festivals and that sort of thing. Yeah. But back when I was like, I think 16 or 17, I went to see Metallica at the O2 in London, and I mean, it's quite common now where they have all their microphones set up in different places and they wander around the stage. And that's never something I've never experienced. I played on some reasonably big stages where you can like walk around and stuff, but never one where you've got several different places set up and you may have like the audience completely circling you and you go to different places. Oh my god, that cat.
He knows that I'm doing something, so he's like,
yeah, it's like, hey.
Yeah. But yeah, so like another thing I was gonna ask you is I know you guys have been touring, and speaking of festivals, didn't you guys just came off of Download recently, haven't? Yeah. So tell us more about that experience.
It was just amazing. We had some news back in 2020 about that we had been selected to play Download, and we were like, oh my god, this is amazing. But that was just after they'd announced that the country was going into lockdown, so we were like, is it going to happen though? And then they started to say, yeah, it's not actually going to happen. And then we thought like, oh no, like, is this our chance? We've missed it. But then they kind of rolled it over to the next year, 2021, but then they had to cancel that as well because like we were still kind of halfway in lockdowns. But they had like a pilot version of Download instead, where it was like small capacity, and they did it as a kind of test. Like everyone took COVID tests before going in, and then they tested everyone coming out to see like how much is COVID spreading within a festival that's 10,000 capacity and stuff like that. So they did it as an experiment, so it was separate. So then we rolled over to the next year, 2022, finally got to play the festival, and it was just it was incredible. Like, it's a festival that I've always thought had an amazing lineup and always wanted to go. I've never been for the full weekend before, but I got to do that as an artist there. So it was great. They looked after us so well, and I don't know, I think we won the crowd over. Like, we were probably the most traditional band that were on that playing that day, which was quite cool. It was cool to be something a bit different. So we weren't sure if it was going to go down well, but I think people were ready to hear something a bit more up tempo and a bit less serious, I guess. Like a lot of the bands were very good, but we were a bit more fun, like in a not like they weren't fun, but I don't know, we don't take ourselves that seriously. So people were kind of getting into that. It was cool.
That's awesome. And then the rest of your tour, do you guys have any like experiences that stand out? Like, a lot of people have tour diaries and they look back at specific dates. Is there anything that really is like an exciting moment in your most recent tour that you can tell us about?
I forgot something. I don't know. I think like the last tour we did, it was such a strange tour in a way, because most of the dates had been moved from way back in 2020, and so it felt kind of strange to finally be doing those shows. And a lot of the gigs that we thought would be they'd be like the really cool ones, they ended up getting like moved into different places, and then we couldn't do them and stuff. So most of the shows were smaller than what we wanted them to be, if you know what I mean. Like a lot of the big ones ended up getting cancelled and the small ones remained. But what was good was that we managed to fill the venues more easily. Like a lot of the gigs were really, really busy, and they were all just really cool. We had some great parties in like particularly Edinburgh, and this place in Blackpool. Yeah, like all the cool towns that yeah, Edinburgh is great. Yeah, I think we unfortunately had to like go to bed kind of early because we had to travel to Liverpool the next day, but we did have a few drinks.
But yeah, like I remember like following one of my most favorite bands around UK, and that was one of the most interesting stops. That I forget the name of the club, but there's this club where they had like a bunch of like metal and rock music, and like we were on the dance floor just tearing it up. So like it was definitely a blast. It was a good time. So I could see you guys fitting in really well there.
Yeah.
Your writing process. So you guys have, we have a visitor. You guys have just released some new music, and you have a new album out. It's called Born to Sin, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that writing process, if you can, like elaborate.
Yeah, so actually that album we started writing in lockdown. So we released our previous album called The Grand Prize. That came out in like the start of April 2020. So basically a week or two after the country got locked down. So we had nothing to do. And our vocalist, who he tends to like come up with like the main core of the song, he was furloughed. He didn't have work for a few months, and so he just like went straight in and wrote the next album like immediately after releasing the last one, which was great. Like we like used the time as best we could, really. So yeah, he wrote loads of songs. He sent us loads of demos. I mean, I was kind of like, I was not in the right mental space to to start looking at new songs. I was like, we've just released this one. Like I have no idea what's happening in the world, but we seem to be in some like horrible pandemic and all the gigs are cancelled. Like I'm too depressed to start listening to your demos. But he kept working, and after a bit of time we were like, okay, yeah, start listening to them, start learning them. And then we managed to I think the country opened up again in like the summer of 2020, so we started to rehearse again together, started to get a better feel for how they'll all sound playing together, because our vocalist just kind of writes demos. It'll just be vocals and guitar back then, and so we'd never like played it in a room together, and we didn't know how the other instruments would sound. But yeah, it started coming together really quickly in terms of the music, and it just took a while to get the recording done, because we'd end up in lockdowns again, and I don't know, there was a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of people were feeling a bit deflated about how many tours were being cancelled. But yeah, luckily those songs we did get those songs out of that time.
That's great. So like, I know it is kind of daunting, but it's good that you had that creative time, and it's good that like everything is coming together now, because you have all that material to like put out into the world for now that things are somewhat normalizing for the most part.
Yeah.
Is there anything, I know we just spoke about the new album, but is there anything new that you guys have on the docket that's in the works? Any more tour dates? Anything that your international audience now can look forward to?
So I think we're thinking about like doing some music videos and stuff. We're actually trying to re-record one of our old songs. So we've done a few re-recordings of like older material, because we have a new lineup now. The first two albums was with kind of a different, there was 3 different members to what there is now, basically. Right. So and we feel like we've come a long way with like how we record things, the people we're working with to like to get things sounding good. So yeah, we've re-recorded a few tracks from our first album, but now we're thinking we'll re-record one of the tracks from our second album, and maybe coincide that with another vinyl release, because we could put that CD, that album that was only on CD, put it on vinyl, and it can include the new single. So yeah, so I'm not going to give it away what it's going to be, but yeah, a song from our second album, which is Lost in Space, is probably going to be re-recorded. And yeah, our vocalist JJ, he's writing songs already. He sent me a few ideas. He's got pretty much an album's worth already, so as long as we have enough time early next year, in between any other tour dates, we're going to be getting to work on that again.
That's awesome. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, there's something about revisiting older pieces that you have and music that you've already worked through, getting that rework in, breathing new life into it, that, you know, ends up being pretty special. I know, like, you know, you're kind of keeping it under wraps, but I don't know, like, are you guys like, I don't know what I can ask you without like revealing too much. Are you guys like working with like different like keyboards or sound, or like what are you doing to breathe new life into it?
Yeah. So as an example, so our the first album, it was just, we had four band members. Now we have it's the same vocalist, and the other three are different, and we also have one backing vocalist who is now like a permanent member of the band. So whereas the earlier albums, we kind of shied away from having too many layers of backing vocals because it wasn't achievable live.
Okay.
Now we can fully embrace having lots of backing vocals, because also during lockdown, because most of our friends weren't busy gigging like they used to be, we could get called in a lot of favors from people because they were like, yeah, I'm really bored, I'll happily collaborate with you. So we had our friend Jade was also doing backing vocals for us on some live streams, and for a few of our recordings, like at least 3 of our recordings had her backing vocals on. So yeah, that's probably the kind of main difference that is going to be for this new recording. I think like the old version also felt very slow on the record, whereas when we played it live, we played it a lot faster. So it's going to be a bit faster. We're going to go to town on all of the vocals, like layer them up, and like, I don't know, we're just going to see how it develops. But I think that song just felt the most like it could do with a little bit of a refresh. Like we're really proud of the album. I love the song as it is as well. But yeah, I want to see what we can do with it. And, you know, maybe if we get it finished, then we're like, oh no, hang on, we've messed this up. Then maybe we won't release it, or, you know, we'll just do something not a very big thing with it. But you know, I feel like it could, yeah, just be another thing that people really enjoy listening to.
Sounds good. And normally, I like to throw in a question that like helps us get to know like a little bit more personally the artist in front of us, because I know we're just talking business, straight music and stuff like that. So like I throw in a little weird off the cuff question. You know, our half hour has kind of gone by. We're coming to the end of it, and I want to make sure you get to plug your socials in. But this is kind of a interesting one. I've been wondering of a lot of people lately. If you can do any bucket list item in your life or activity that you've always dreamed today, you know, no questions asked, no cost, no matter what would you do today?
Oh, today. So it's just a thing. Okay. Oh God, I don't know. I would like to visit Australia, maybe. I think that I don't know, that's something I've always wanted to do. I find the country very fascinating as a, you know, it's so like removed from other land masses, and like the animals there are really like, yeah, just like unique.
Strange. Like you're like, you see something weird like a spider that's 10 feet long and like huge, like bigger than your head, like that must be Australia. That's a video.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, where everything is like terrifying or extremely cute. Like like there's so many cute animals there, and then there's like, oh my god, like that's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'd go there because it's like, you know, the opposite side of the world, like, and they have so much interesting history there, a lot of like very traumatic history, but you know, I'd like to kind of just see what it's like, because it's just such a strange country, and yeah, lots of
Great,
cool animals. And
great.
really warm, and I like warm weather, so
Yes,
that'd be cool.
that's a great answer. It's one of the places I've always wanted to visit too on my bucket list. So
Yeah.
I might be a little biased, but whatever. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you, Becky, for giving us your time today. We at Rock News are very grateful for everything. Um, and I want to give you the floor. I want to give you a chance to talk about your socials, and if there's anything else that, you know, your audience all over the world needs to know. I was watching one of your videos recently. I think you went live on Facebook, and there's people here in Chicago who love listening to your music. So you guys have already touched a lot of people around the world, but let us know what's going on.
Okay. So maybe I'll plug my website first. My website is beckybaldwinbass.com. And basically, Becky Baldwin Bass, you'll find that on like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can follow me all of those social media things. TikTok, I've recently started getting into.
Nice.
So you can find me there. And from those profiles, you'll find links to Fury, the band, and also my other band, Hands Off Gretel. I do a Patreon. So, you know, if you're the kind of person who wants to support kind of financially like artists from strange corners of the world, it's not a very strange corner here, but yeah, then yeah, I do a Patreon, and you know, I do more like behind the scenes videos. I also like talk about bass, so if you're like interested in learning bass, like I may have some
Cool.
resources on there for you. But yeah, like, yeah, my band Fury, we've just released the album Born to Sin. Please stream it on Spotify and all that. Check out our music videos on YouTube, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. All right. So I have thoroughly enjoyed our time together. I'm going to go ahead and let you get back to all of your musical endeavors, what have you. Thank you again for your time. I really enjoyed it. This has been Roctavia Rose with Rock News and Becky Baldwin from the band Fury. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.